everybody, it's Dean here and we are live for another Maverick live session, and today we're talking about upselling and we're talking about land and expand, and I have dragged Kurtis out of hibernation and he's joining me socially distanced in the studio. So everybody talks about upsells and downsells and all this kind of stuff, but I wanted to talk about with Kurtis and get your opinions in the chat actually about this concept called land and expand. Kurtis, I felt like a news presenter.
I know. Be like tapping your papers.
Tonight at 10 o'clock. Upselling.
Yep.
It's obviously easier to upsell somebody who's already buying from you.
Yes.
What are some of your things and tips that you've come across in terms of upselling people? Because you've worked for one of the greatest upselling companies in the world, right?
Yes, I have. So basically, I would say the best tip is everyone's always concerned about making money quick, so they always go with their big product, you mean like their big £100,000 product, and trying to shove it in people's faces. But you've got to think, why would a business straight away invest that much money into you? A business is that big, that can afford that price range as well. Why would they just willy-nilly invest into products or services like that without researching? So they've only got to that level of expenditure because they've done so well in making the key choices and like investing in the right people. So you almost use that lower product or your little land and expand product as like a trial version, so they can buy into you, they could trust you, they can learn about your company, you can learn about them. So it's almost like a trial product. Yeah. So I think people should always focus on the low end sometimes, because it can lead to the bigger sales, obviously, reach many clients.
Kurtis makes a really good point there, that if you're selling a large, high-value product or service, the consideration period for a company is normally longer. And so the land and expand, which we're talking about here, Kurtis is saying, you know, it's much easier to sell almost like a teaser introductory product, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We call this land and expand. It's a big and common thing that major consultancy firms do, where you can actually just get your foot in the door, for want of a word, right?
Yep, yeah. I think with the bigger products as well, when you're speaking to people about the smaller products, you're able to build better rapport with them. As soon as you mention these big products or like your higher price, which I know most clients always want to speak about, I think the other person who's on the receiving end of that message will always think, oh, they're already in for all the money. Do you mean they're already going straight to their top package? They haven't found out exactly how they can help. Because how do you know, in their perspective, how do you know that your top product suits their company and will work for their company without even having trialed your smaller products or even test run anything? So to them, they're almost just going to think, oh, actually, they're here for the money.
And it's also a big risk for the person who's bringing you on board as well.
Yes,
because
definitely.
Their credibility, their reputation's on the line, that if they back your proposal without any knowledge of how you work together, their job could be on the line if it goes wrong too, right?
Yeah, 100%, because that choice will be put onto them. They're the ones who obviously have incorporated this service and said, oh, this will get us these things. And if that's not bringing in the numbers, it's all going to reflect on him.
Or her.
Probably less than, him or her, and then less than the company that's bringing in that service where it's not working.
Yeah. So land and expand is a brilliant concept you can use whereby, and we've seen it work in businesses where there's lots of contracts, long-term contracts. They can bring in a product or service that actually takes them a little bit deeper and build almost like a product that's actually there just to build relationships.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also think as well, with that trial product, whoever you build a relationship with and whoever brings you on board to their company, they almost become your biggest fan for the bigger product. As long as you obviously fulfill everything that you say you're going to do, the services, basically what it says on the tin, they will become your biggest advocate, and they're the ones who will push your name, push that big product into the faces of their bosses. So it's almost like you don't have to sell that big product.
Yeah. Now, Kurtis, I know you can't give away your previous work that you used to do, but you work for a company where, mind you, if somebody looks at your LinkedIn profile, they probably see this. you work for a company where they actually had a relatively cheap sale, but your job and your team's job was to literally convince customers to buy more stuff, which was effectively very, very high margin stuff, right?
Yeah. The cost of the product was always something that would not make the company any profit. It was just almost just to obviously meet the balance.
Yeah.
Everything on top was always the profit. So it's like the same if you went to a cinema. Like cinema tickets cost. Do you mean the companies make nothing?
What's cinema?
Yeah, so like cinema tickets, they make nothing from the company, but they make extortionate amounts of money from the food because obviously they charge £3 for a bag of minstrels.
And actually, the same is with petrol stations.
Yes.
Many years ago, I worked in a company that owned petrol stations, and they would make like a penny a litre on petrol and diesel, but where they really made the money was in the shop.
Yeah.
And you would think there was this like big volume of sales going on in petrol that they were making hardly any money on, and all the profit was in the shop. And land and expand is a little bit like that. Sometimes you have to develop a product or a service, not necessarily that you lose money on, but I can tell you a company that did this as well. Is you get something that gets you over the line, you've built a relationship, you're working with that company, and you can expand that relationship, land and expand. But there's a very famous business, mail order stationery company. And for many years, they would sell copier paper, the paper you put in your printer, at an absolute loss. And the reason they did this, they were selling it for like 99p a ream. Yeah, and some of you maybe watching this will know who I'm talking about. And oddly enough, I ended up working for one of their parent company that took over them in the end. They would sell paper at 99p a ream. They were losing money on the paper.
Yeah.
Now, I wouldn't advocate doing that in this day and age, but they did back then. And that was to get the account with the new customer. So they would literally create a ridiculous offer to get people to buy the paper. And then they'd go, oh, what about this? Do you want this? Do you want this? We got this offer. And actually, when you look at some of their other products, you actually see how expensive they are. Like printer cartridges and things, but it does work.
Yeah, definitely. It's like with most companies, like if you go to any estate agent, they will offer you a free valuation. Now they don't do it because of the kindness of their heart. They do it because it costs them money because obviously they're sending like a manager or a senior negotiator out. So there's that costly, obviously there's that hour that they would be paid. So they will go out free of charge and they will just use that basically to just...
It's lead generation.
Yeah. So it's lead generation. So they use it just to generate a conversation with someone who they want to speak with later, or do you mean like a deal breaker? So it's just like with anything, like if you're using your lower product, even though it costs, you're almost just using it to generate a conversation later down the line, which is how you have to see things these days.
Yeah.
Because all of these companies that do these land and expand, they're the ones that always succeed because they are going obviously at these lower ends where they're able to build so much rapport with so many people. And if they're as good as they say, their services will always be upsold into something better,
Yeah. So land and expand, what's your thoughts on this kind of model in business? The tech sector does this quite well because they have freemium, I said that right, freemium products. So you get the app and there's a free version and then they try and convince you to unlock different features. Stationery companies have done it. Major consulting companies do it all the time. It's a tried and tested model of effectively upselling your services or paid lead generation. In some internet marketing worlds, they call it the self-liquidating offer. And you'll have seen these on ads where basically you buy something for like $3 or $4.99. And what they're effectively doing is offering you something that seems like a no-brainer to take up. But actually it funds their advertising and allows them to then nurture you to grow that sale from a $4.99 or a $3 ebook through to a £1,000, £2,000, £5,000, £100,000 sale. And now, whilst you may not be internet marketing, because you're selling something that's more complex or you're selling something that's more involved, the principle of what that is, the land and expand, is solid. And I know 6 major corporate companies, 6 Six major consultancy companies that turn over hundreds of millions, that this is their business practice to do land and expand.
Yeah. I would also mention another thing, that it's also important to remember when you're doing the land and expand. So even though you're doing the smaller product, you have to build that relationship in the right way. If you're aiming to just knock out as many as you can and do almost like a transactional purchase, those people, even though it works well, because they haven't built the best relationship, there'll be a lot of companies that will just cut it after that product and you won't even get to the expand stage. So although you're targeting loads of companies and obviously going for either like these free consultations or going for a smaller product, you have to spend time to nurture that relationship well, because you have to treat every company as if they're able to go to the top end of your product. So you almost want to give more value than what they expect each time. So at least you can get that conversation or that purchase later on down the line, which is important to remember.
So land and expand, upsell. It's a great customer acquisition strategy. It's a great way to build relationships. It's a great paid pitch in some senses. And lots of people are using it. Why don't you have a think about how you can use the land and expand principle on your business? Maybe you've got companies where you're trying to do a £3 million sale, or maybe you're trying to do a £1 million sale. What's the mini aspect of that you can add value to them, demonstrate your ability, prove and solidify a relationship so you can move that into a deeper and more valuable sale and a more deeper and valuable relationships. Land and expand. Kurtis, what do you want to say? Anything coming up this week before we sign off? What have we got going on? Have we got any events this week?
We've got an event this week.
We've got two, actually.
Yeah, we've got two. We've got the sales enablement one.
So Wednesday, we're doing a sales enablement training. It's free. You can find a link on our company page on LinkedIn and register there. It's all about how to use social selling in your sales team. And then Tuesday night, we've got a LinkedIn lead generation session. Or 7 o'clock, you can go to Eventbrite and register for that. Just Google Maverick Eventbrite. You'll see our event listings there. Or you can go to our website and go to our events page and get there. But from us, or from me in Maverick Studio, and from Kurtis, who's been brought in socially distanced from exile.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for watching.